Coming up next is in-depth news analysis. You are now listening to Korea24 on KBS World Radio.
Today I have been honored to welcome the White House President Moon. We got an opportunity to spend some private time with him as well as with our delegations.
Best ever visit, best ever meeting. That was how President Moon Jae-in described his recent trip and summit on his social media account on Sunday. In his first face-to-face meeting with President Joe Biden, the two reached agreements on a number of issues, from COVID-19 vaccine partnership, semiconductors, missile development, and on North Korea. Let's hear a little from both leaders at the news conference, a post-summit on North Korea.
The Biden administration concluded its DPRK policy review, building on past agreements, including the Singapore Joint Statement, while taking a calibrated and practical approach to seeking diplomacy with North Korea. It is indeed a welcome direction of the Biden administration's North Korea policy.
Our goal is and remains complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We want to make practical progress and increase security in the United States for the United States and our allies. We closely studied what others have tried and what worked and what hasn't worked. And, we're under no illusions how difficult this is. None whatsoever. And
we'll be looking more closely at the North Korea issue, more specifically a bit later with former Ambassador Robert Gallucci. But to get an overall assessment of Moon's trip to the US, we have joining us in the studio today Dr. Joon Hyung, the Chancellor of the National Diplomatic Academy. Dr. Kim, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, first I apologise for having a bit of a croaky throat today, but I hope you can bear with me today.
No problem.
I'll let you do more of the talking, but could we start with your overall assessment of the first summit between President Moon Jae-in and US President Joe Biden?
At the beginning, as you just introduced how my president felt about this the best ever summit, best ever visit, I think my boss says so I have to follow and share with that. But objectively, so many people, overall evaluation is successful. Of course, there are some blanks, ambiguity, and some incomplete or some sensitive issues. But those are not because of, because the summit was not successful. Just because, one summit cannot solve every problem and cannot clarify everything. So maybe that's the task we have to do from now on.
There are many areas of the summit we could start with, but perhaps we could start with the bilateral missile guidelines that have been terminated. Now, these guidelines have been in place since 1979, putting restrictions on South Korea over missile development. Now, over the years, they have been eased somewhat, but now they've been abolished. What does this mean for South Korea's defense capabilities, and why did it take so long to get here?
I know this is a big accomplishment, especially this summit, and Moon government tried so hard to get that. From the beginning, this is kind of awkward because as a sovereign state, but we are under umbrella of a U.S. defense guarantee, so maybe this is not a really unequal or some problem, but we try to show us as a very observing nations about this proliferation of missile technology. But I think this is the time that we can have a full sovereignty over missile technology. And another part is, in the older days, U.S. worry about instability caused by North. Also, they worry about, in part, maybe we can South Korea provoke, and then can be destabilized in Korea. But now I think U.S. has a full trust on us. So that's why here we go. We have this, complete abolished.
There is concern that China perhaps might not take kindly to this development. What do you make of those concerns?
Many people raise this question. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't agree with that because, already we had like a 800-kilometer range. That means, Chinese defense capability usually, deployed along the coastline. that means already in the range. Another one is, maybe you recall that, this third crisis or third issue, one of the arguments China made was, if South Korean government purchased this and operate on its Korean's autonomy, that's fine.
Right, the U.S. missile defense system, that's on South Korean soil.
Yeah, as long as. But if we apply this principle to this missile, I think rather, if there are two choices, if China has, one is we can have ability to develop this missile technology, or U.S.'s plan of this intermediate range missile deployment, after the INF agreement abolished. I think China preferred this way to, U.S. deployment.
I see. So we'll see what China does.
They might be sensitive, but I don't think they're really upset about this.
I guess part of the efforts will be for President Moon and the Moon administration to explain that to China as well.
Yes.
Now, North Korea was, of course, among the top issues discussed during the summit meeting. In a joint statement released afterwards, the two sides agreed on the objective of complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. It also said they would continue to engage in dialogue with North Korea, building on the basis of past agreements, including the Panmunjom Declaration and the Singapore Joint Statement. These two were reached, of course, during the Trump administration. And the joint statement also addressed the North Korean human rights issue, though, saying that the two sides will work on that too. What were your thoughts on the outcome of the summit when it comes to North Korea?
Yeah, there are three big issues in this in this summit. Even before this, one is North Korean issue. This is common area. And the other one is a vaccine, which is we asked for U.S. help. And the technology, semiconductors and then things like that, actually U.S. asked us for help. So I think these three issues, I never saw, this, quality-wise and number-wise, so many agreements and the MOUs actually followed, and especially give and take issues. So many people said, then most important North Korean issues kind of is not really stand out, and many ambiguities, and many people said that it's not enough for the U.S. And South Korea to draw North Korea to the table. That's I think valid argument, but I think some accomplishment definitely. One of you mentioned that is CVID or FFV is not there. And
right. They don't say complete verifiable. They just say the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And
the Korean Peninsula, actually, not the North Korea only. That's actually we try to make it and ask. Another one is endorsing actually Singapore Declaration, but we had one more thing is Panmunjom Declaration. That's a big success. And another one is I want to mention is Biden, and we try so hard to do this. And we asked Biden's endorsement. So President Biden support North-South dialogue and engagement and cooperation. That's a big endorsement. Even though U.S. didn't clarify what they can give if North Korea shows some progress on denuclearization, but this at this time they want to have tried to the other party act first, but in the meantime, because they endorsed inter-Korean cooperation, so kind of we can make a move to persuade North Korea to come to the table.
By mentioning the Panmunjom and the Singapore Declaration, it gives recognition to the efforts that President Moon and the Moon administration have built so far over the past 4 years.
Another part is, Biden government is just started, little over, 100 days. So they cannot show some concessions even before North Korea make a move. But by saying this, then we can make we can fill the gap. Then it's not breaking or violating whole system of sanction, but we can try kind of get away from it and do something, some exceptions by promoting inter-Korean cooperation, especially like a vaccine or humanitarian aid and things like that.
Well, President Moon said that the two sides, South Korea and the US, agreed to be flexible on North Korea.
Right.
President Biden was quite firm in the news conference, saying that he would only meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un if he were to make commitments towards denuclearization. How do you think North Korea will respond not only to that comment but to the whole summit in general?
For President Biden, he has to say what he has to say. I think he don't want to be yield anything at this point. North Korea, I think they are really trying to. I think right now they're discussing very hard about this. I don't think it's really satisfies their request because they want the withdrawal of hostility toward against North Korea. So it's not up to their expectation, but here and there some gestures try to accommodate North Korea and solving North Korean issue by dialogue and diplomacy. So I think right now they're preparing the response. I don't think it's really positive or they welcome, but at the same time, I don't think they really break the table by totally attacking us or attacking this summit.
Meanwhile, former U.S. Ambassador to Seoul, Sung Kim, has been appointed as the new special envoy for North Korea, something which President Moon called a surprise present from the Biden administration. Now, Sung Kim has experience in multiple administrations, but was most recently a key figure in arranging the Singapore summit in 2018. What will his appointment mean for negotiations with North Korea?
That was really a surprise. I think one of the surprise during the summit actually is a very unorthodox goal.
Right. Normally summits are very much planned out.
But this is like a press conference. It was released, and before that, many people worry about here in the U.S. who really favors or supports dialogue. And because, this human rights representative is going to be appointed, but not about this special envoy to North Korea. That's the best signal to North. But, by appointing Sung Kim as this special representative North Korea is a good signal. And even before appointing human rights representative, special representative.
We'll leave the North Korea issue there. Now, one issue that many South Koreans had been particularly eagerly awaiting news on was regarding COVID-19 vaccines. Now, before the summit, there was speculation that President Moon might reach a vaccine swap deal, but that did not turn out to be the case. Instead, they announced a global vaccine partnership to expand global supply and combine U.S. expertise and South Korea's production capacity. Additionally, the U.S. did promise to provide vaccines to 550,000 Korean military personnel. On the vaccine front, then, do you think President Moon got what he wanted, and do you think the public will be satisfied with what he got as well?
I think there were some self-generated wishful thinking about the vaccine supply in Korea, actually. One of that is, this vaccines and swap. Actually, another one is actually COVAX facility, 80 million doses of this COVAX facility. And we might get some delivery from it, but I don't think it's really is right, actually. That's for developing country. Korea is considered safe. And, we had some kind of problem, delivery issues like last month and this month, but getting better situation now. And in the summit, this is delivery issue is not really matter or agenda for summit, I think. So in that sense, we have a much better deal about the sharing or cooperating in the vaccine area, and American technology and the raw material, and our capability to produce. I think this is really meaningful and is really important. And regarding this 550,000,
yeah,
that was I think is very symbolic. Some people try to attack this as this is a sign of a resuming, joint military exercise. That's why they give a vaccine to them. I think that's too much. I think this is very symbolic. And we have to remember this. We consider it as we are still suffering, but comparatively, Korea is a safe place. But, these military people they're living together. So most urgent one. And this is alliance issues. So that's why this is as a good sign of friendship. I think that's symbolic and is important.
Well, there was certainly a lot to come out of the summit, and we haven't talked about even some of the economic issues, such as the 44 trillion won investment that South Korean companies was going to put into the US. But just to wrap up, where do you think then the South Korea-US alliance stands at this point?
Actually, I recently wrote about that, this alliance and a book, a very thick book. This is U.S.-Korean relationship for 139 years. I picked 18 cases. And actually, I was attacked by some people that I actually belittling U.S.-ROK alliance. One of the arguments that I made is sometimes your alliance becomes like a myth. That myth is we cannot have a disagreement in every aspect. That's a myth. We can disagree sometimes, even 7 years of alliance. I think we have to secularize that part. Secularize that part. This alliance has history, and especially institutionalized. Even U.S. president cannot break. Congress has to agree, and here. So I don't think it never was in crisis even before the summit, but this summit definitely fortified and strengthened and alliance, especially in this difficult time.
It's a new chapter, as the two put it in their joint statement.
I want to add that. Actually, really, U.S. treated South Korea as a global partnership, not just, luxurious words or, extravaganza. It's a really very specific area that, U.S. asked help. Not just, technology, but, new security issues and including, climate change.
Well, we appreciate you walking us through your thoughts on all of these issues today. We've been speaking to Dr. Joon Hyung, the Chancellor of the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. Dr. Kim, thank you for your time once again
My
today.
pleasure. Thank you.